Hi, Andy XL, back with another NFXL podcast. Looking at the awards again and how they might stand out, or my awards, my personal awards, first of all, in terms of team power rankings. And then I'll come on to look at MVP and Offensive Rookie of the Year later. So let's start with the power rankings. New number one, moving up from two. They finally got there, the Indianapolis Colts. Another week, another powerhouse performance that cannot be ignored. The Colts are my new number one. They look like they're going to take some stopping. On bye, dropping from one to two, the Detroit Lions. The Packers beating Pittsburgh makes winning the NFC North that bit tougher for Lions. And wins for the Eagles and Bucks won't help their chase for top seed in the NFC either. So compared to the Colts, their path looks tougher, which is why they've dropped. Staying at three, the Kansas City Chiefs. They followed a hugely significant win over the Lions with a definitive beatdown of the Raiders, and now they've taken care of the Commanders. If they were ever gone, they're certainly back now, and that defense is really beginning to play. Staying at four, the Philadelphia Eagles. Even without AJ Brown, they looked more like their old selves in beating the Giants and are well clear in the NFC East now. Postseason bound they look. And can they claim the top seeding from the NFC though? They're in that race. As are moving up one from six to five, the Green Bay Packers. Another good win, this time over the Steelers, keeps them on track to win the NFC North, and they remain top of the NFC pile right now. Can they stay there though? That's the question, and that's why they're still a little bit lower than the likes of the Lions and Eagles, because I'm doubting it. Moving back up two places, having plummeted seven last week, up from eight to six, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're still battered and bruised. The D carried them past the Saints, and they all limp into their bye week, hoping to come out of it with a spring in their step. The only NFC South team to win this week, and now two games clear in that division. Staying at seven are the LA Rams. 49ers losing whilst the Rams were on bye was good news, but the Packers, Eagles, and Bucks wins see them lose ground in pursuit of the higher seedings in the NFC. Moving up one from nine to eight, the Buffalo Bills. Questions were being asked of the Bills' postseason credentials before their Week 8 thrashing of the Panthers. Answers provided by James Cook and Josh Allen, but still chasing the Pats in the AFC East. Moving up from 10 to 9, the LA Chargers. A Week 8 beatdown of the Vikings keeps the Chargers well on course for the postseason, and they're in that AFC West title race too. Another team moving up one are the New England Patriots from 11 to 10, still on the up, overcame the Browns despite another slow start. They do need to get better in the first quarter of games, and the O-line still looks to be an area of concern for the Pats, which is why they're only just breaking the top 10 for me. Moving up, another team moving up one spot, the Denver Broncos. The Broncos found some offensive consistency against Dallas, but therein lies the rub. It was the Cowboys' D without any of its secondary. The Broncos' defense still looks really good, though. We need to find out how healthy Pat Surtain's going to be going forward. So that's the black mark on their good week, but it's up to 11 in my power rankings. Now, all those teams moving up one, somebody had to be moving down, and it's the San Francisco 49ers who dropped from 5 to 12. The 49ers were down two spots last week and dropped seven this week after losing to the Texans, as that loss leaves them half a game back at the Rams and Seahawks in the NFC West and costs them ground in the wildcard race too. 13 and staying still, the Seattle Seahawks, same as the Rams. Good week in terms of their divisional title hopes, but less so in terms of getting a high seed in the NFC postseason bracket. 14 and staying still at 14 despite a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Um, yeah, they lost to the Packers this week. It's left the door more and more open for the Ravens to catch them in their division. And it's the Ravens that are one spot behind them now at 15, jumping up from 20. Snoop Huntley had a nice game as the Ravens beat the Bears, but the real point of note is that the Ravens D is back on form, and they're now just two games back of the Steelers in the AFC North, a game behind the Bengals, and maybe about to get Lamar back. So all going in the right direction right now for the Ravens. Another team moving up, big star of seven spots from 23 to 16 are the Houston Texans. A fine win over the 49ers lifts the Texans to ninth in the AFC standings, but the Colts do not look catchable in the AFC South, and wins for the Patriots, Broncos, Bills, Chiefs, and Chargers mean they made up no ground in the wildcard race this week. They get to play the Broncos and Jags in the next 2 weeks. Both the teams they need to catch in that race. So both could be must win for the Texans, but going in the right direction after a good win. Moving up 2 spots from 19 to 17, despite being on bye with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They did not look like a playoff team in losing to the Rams in week 7, though. And with the Chiefs going well, their grip on a wild card space is looking weak. But they've moved up a couple of spots because of other teams' bad performances. And that starts with the Cincinnati Bengals, who dropped from 15 to 18. The Bengals badly needed to follow up on their win over the Steelers by showing they are for real against the Jets. They did the opposite, and winning the AFC North looks like their only hope of making the postseason now. The Chicago Bears dropped 2 from 17 to 19. They were put in their place by the Ravens in week 8, and that place is on the outside looking in at the NFC North postseason. Winnable games await them against the Bengals and Giants, so it's now time for the Bears to ante up if they are to improve their hand. Right, Dallas Cowboys dropped from 18 to 20. The offense could not deliver against the Broncos, and when you have no defense, that is bad news. But this loss and Phillies win means the Eagles have all but flown away with the NFC East title now, leaving the Cowboys staggering towards the last chance saloon wildcard wise. Staying still at 21, the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, they were routed by the Chargers. They're out of the NFC North title race and needing 7 wins from the remaining 10 games. JJ McCarthy to the rescue. Another team staying still at 22, the Washington Commanders. They dropped 9 spots in their last 2 weeks. Their loss to the Chiefs means they need to go at least 7-2 from here to make the postseason. A big ask. Similarly for the Atlanta Falcons, who dropped from 16 to 17. Now the Falcons laid their second absolute egg of the season in losing to the Dolphins. The first being another awful showing against the Panthers in week 3. Those 2 terrible performances will cost them dearly. They join the Vikings Commanders in needing pretty much a miracle to make the postseason now. Staying still at 24, the Carolina Panthers. With only 3 NFC teams winning this week, the Panthers' loss to the Bills is not as costly as it could have been. The Bucs win does leave the Panthers 2 games back of them in the NFC South, though. On bye up 1 spot from 26 to 25, the Arizona Cardinals. Their hopes of making the postseason are pretty slim too. The Raiders move up from 28 to 26. Whilst they were on bye, dropping 2 spots from 25 to 27, the New York Giants. The loss to the Eagles and another devastating injury blow as Cam Scatterbo joins Malik Neighbours on the shelf. Not going to go 8-1 from here, so it's all over for the Giants this season. Cleveland Browns dropped from 27 to 28. Great D. Myles Garrett's fabulous. Shame about the offense. Miami Dolphins up 1 from 30 to 29. They took advantage of an awful performance from the Falcons, but the wins of the Pats and Bills pretty much end their divisional title hopes, and they're not going to go 8-1 from here to get a wild card spot. So the win was pretty much irrelevant, as I mentioned in my good week, bad week piece. Moving off the basement, the New York Jets. A win for the Jets moves them up to 30, and they showed true spirit to overcome their own limitations to beat the Bengals, who just gave it away. So who's dropping down? The New Orleans Saints are now down to 31 from 29. Another loss, and benching Spencer Rattler basically means they are accepting he cannot be their quarterback for 2026. Could Tyler Shuggs be, though? Well, we're about to find out potentially if he gets to start from now on. And hitting the bottom, Tennessee Titans down 1 from 31. Another week, another loss. Good job, the Jets are worse. Oh, no, they're not now, so the Titans are bottom. Right, so that's my power rankings. Let's have a look at MVP. Still at 1, I've got Patrick Mahomes. A bit of a mixed bag for him this week, but the Chiefs are still on track, so he may well still be on track to win another MVP award. 2 is still Jonathan Taylor, and he's pushing Mahomes really hard now. A massive game as expected this week. He's now through the 1,000-yard mark, scrimmage mark for the season, 1,056, with no fewer than 14 touchdowns, which put him on target for an incredible 2,244 yards from scrimmage and no fewer than 30 touchdowns. Surely you can't keep that pace up. but if he gets anywhere near it, he's got to be a serious MVP candidate. Moving up 6 spots from 9 to 3, I've got Drake May. Um, Now he's had another good game this week, whilst others didn't do as well. So and the Patriots are still ploughing on and looking better and better. So that's jumped him right up, and he's got to be being mentioned now as one of the best quarterbacks around this season, which could win him an MVP award. Dropping down 1 from 3 to 4, Baker Mayfield, who's had a couple of indifferent performances. He's done really well without any particular offensive weaponry with all these stars missing. But he's found the last couple of weeks tough, so now he's dropped down to number 4. Jared Goff had a decent week, so he moves up from 6 to 5. He's averaging 233 passing yards a game and over 2 touchdowns a game. So still having a really strong season. But Detroit probably need to get the number 1 seed in the NFC for him to be considered as an MVP candidate. Um, and in that, guys jumping right back up from 13 to 6 is Josh Allen. A strong game from him last week, and as the Bills answered a lot of questions against the Panthers, and they back in contention both for the division and a high seeding, possibly top seeding in the AFC. Jalen Hurts stays at 7, did okay this week, but nothing great. Lamar Jackson didn't play, so he stays at 8. Justin Herbert moves up from 11 to 9 after a really good performance. Matthew Stafford stays at 10 after his bye week. I brought Jordan Love in, who didn't have in the list my top 16 or 17 prior to this week. He's now in at 11. He's averaging 267 passing yards a game and just under 2 touchdowns a game. So if you compare him statistically to others ahead of him in this list, he's got a chance. And if if the Packers win top seeding in the NFC, Love's going to be a big part of that. So it could be a song title there somewhere. 12, down from 5, Christian McCaffrey. Quietish game for him, but more the fact that the 49ers are now struggling to win their division and also fallen back into the pack of wildcard chasers. So, if the 49ers aren't going to be seen as having a great season, then McCaffrey's not going to be seen in that regard either, even though he's through the 1,000 scrimmage yards now with 1,049. So he's pretty much on the same yardage as Jonathan Taylor, 7 shy of it, but 6 touchdowns compared to Taylor's 14. So, even if you're trying to pick the best running back, he's got a lot of work to catch Taylor. 13, up 1 from 14, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Well, they were on bye this week. 14 down from 4, Bijan Robinson. Well, he's now behind McCaffrey and Taylor in the running back stats. And the Falcons now look like they're going to struggle to make the postseason. So that pretty much ends Robinson's MVP candidature. And 3 that I have dropped out this week, just to mention them: Dak Prescott, Jaden Daniels, and Aaron Rodgers. Well, Prescott and Daniels, both the Cowboys and Commanders, look unlikely to make the postseason, and the Steelers' grip on the AFC North is weakening by the week. So I've dropped him out of contention because his stats are nowhere near the other quarterbacks that I've listed previously. Finally, right, offensive rookie of the year. Number 1, still Emeka Egbuka, 571 yards and 5 touchdowns. Another quietish week, but he's still leading the pack for me. Tyler Warren's still pressing him, although he didn't have his biggest game this week either. He's had 498 yards and 4 touchdowns so far this season. In the same number of games in his rookie season last year, Brock Bowers had 547 yards and just a single touchdown. So more yardage at fewer TDs. And Tyler Warren's having a real impact as a blocker as well, as big factor in that Colts team success. So he's pushing Egbuka really hard in this race. Aston Jonty moves up from 4 to 3 on his bye week. Quinshon Judkins comes up from 5 to 4. Ted McMillan has jumped up 3 spots from 8 to 5. He's beginning to put some good yardage together now, and he's on 512 yards and 2 touchdowns for the season. Just behind him, Aronde Gadsden. Another really good strong game from him as he's really getting going now. He's 385 yards and 2 touchdowns, so he's 113 yards and a couple of touchdowns behind Tyler Warren. And just behind him, another tight end, Harold Fanning, who moves up from 12 to 7. 27 yards fewer than Gadsden and the same number of touchdowns. We're on a worse team, has to be said. So he's having a fine season too. Jackson Dart drops down from 6 to 8 due to the rise of Macmillan, Gadsden, and Fanning. And the Giants' hopes are in tatters now, really. So, Jack Dart's going to have to really stand out on his own for him to get up this table. Amarian Hampton drops from 7 to 9 as he continues his absence. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt had a quiet game, so he stays at 10. Travis Hunter, the Jags were on bye, so he stays at 11. Matthew Golden didn't do much this week, so he's still up from 13 to 12. And the reason he's up is because Cam Scatterby basically drops out the list, having got injured this week, and he's only played less than half a season, so he's really got very little chance of winning Offensive Rookie of the Year now. So that's a look at all of that for after week 8. I'll come back and update you again after week 9, see what changes we have. See you soon.